The sun rose over the Serengeti plains, painting the tall grasses gold and scattering warm light, promising a new day under nature's ancient law. For millions of years, this land knew only the rule of predator and prey, of life and death. It was a brutal yet fair cycle, where only strength and the instinct for survival spoke. But today a new, harsh, and alien law was established right in the heart of this wilderness, the law of human indifference. In the patch of green grass right at the edge of the asphalt road, a frequent path for noisy four-wheel drive vehicles, a terrifyingly silent tragedy was unfolding. Layla, a mother lion accustomed to all dangers, was straining in desperation. Beside her, her cub, Keto, lay motionless. A discarded rubber tire, the soulless remnant of a vehicle long gone, had become a fatal trap. The black tire was tightly constricting Keto's small body, blocking his breath and paralyzing his movements. Layla bit, pulled, and roared, but all efforts were futile. The synthetic, alien, and rope-like material mocked her wild strength. It was an invisible, inert obstacle that could not be destroyed by claws and teeth. This scene was not a natural event. This was the cruel intervention of our world into theirs. It turned a simple accident into a tragedy about motherhood. In this wilderness, Layla was not fighting hyenas or buffalo, but human refuse. Her desperate gaze was a silent question for humanity. What is a mother to do when the instinct to survive is defeated by oblivion? This is a story of boundless love, willing to cross the most dangerous boundary to save her child. Layla stayed with Keto all night. Her angry roars had turned into choked sobs, mixed with the cold wind. She bit hard into the tire, trying to tear it like the flesh of prey. But the tire only slipped against her skin, leaving a bitter taste of rubber. She clawed at it, but her claws only scratched the smooth surface. Layla was the pinnacle of wild evolution. She was born to conquer all natural obstacles, yet she was utterly helpless against this inanimate object created by humans. With every bite and pull, the tire slightly tightened around Keto. Keto was no longer moving. His weak breathing made Layla panic more than ever. She gently licked his head, feeling the warmth slowly fading. She knew she was running out of time. The pride had moved on. Layla had to hunt, had to drink, but she couldn't leave. This place had become the intersection of life and death, and she was the sentinel. Layla looked up at the asphalt road. She called the vehicles that sped by speed demons, creatures of metal and light that always rushed past at terrifying speed, carrying the smell of grease and smoke. She had taught Keto and the other cubs to stay away from this road, as it represented chaos and unpredictable danger. But now, she realized a bitter truth. Those creatures, the ones who created this rubber trap, were also the only ones capable of removing it. Layla made a reckless decision, an action that went against every conservation instinct she had inherited. She had to bring Keto to the most dangerous place to be seen. It was a gamble between salvation and instant death under the wheels. Exhausted, Layla clamped her jaws onto the tire. She gritted her teeth, using the strength of her powerful body to drag Keto in the heavy trap. The force tore the grass, creating a long streak on the dusty ground, and finally, both lay on the hot black asphalt. This position exposed her and Keto completely to the view of any vehicle, and simultaneously placed them in the heart of danger. Layla lay down, blocking Keto from the lane. She did not roar a challenge. She lay there as a bare plea. The sun began to beat down fiercely, heating the road and highlighting the scratches on Keto's body. Layla stared intently into the distance, where the vehicles usually appeared. She had risked everything. She was ready to fight anyone, but she was also ready to endure fear for a fragile hope. Motherly love had forced her to violate the law of the jungle and step into humanity's boundary of death. It wasn't until mid-morning that a high-clearance safari vehicle appeared in the distance, speeding along the asphalt road. Inside were a group of foreign tourists excitedly documenting the early day sightings. They were nature lovers, here to marvel at the majesty of wildlife. However, the scene they witnessed was beyond any guidebook or documentary footage. The guide, David, an experienced man, was the first to notice the anomaly. He signaled the driver to slow down and stop at a safe distance. As the car slowly rolled, everyone held their breath. They saw Layla lying there, her majestic body nearly stretched across the road, her eyes fixed and alert. Her anger and exhaustion formed an invisible wall. And beneath her, they saw the black tire, a shameful trace of civilization, constricting the small, fragile life. In that moment, the safari car was no longer a place of observation. It became a container of moral conflict. This was not a natural scene where they were merely outsiders. This was the direct result of human indifference. We are the guests, the witnesses, but also the culprits. A female tourist named Sarah burst into tears. She clenched her hands, recognizing Layla's unspoken despair. David, who had witnessed countless life and death scenes in his career, understood that this was a plea. He understood Layla's gaze. She had broken her own rules to come to them, the speed demons she hated and feared. Without hesitation, David raised his satellite radio. His voice was shaky but clear, accurately describing the location and the urgent situation. He called the Wildlife Rescue Center, emphasizing that the mother lion was in a state of ultimate protection of her cub, and that intervention must be carried out with the utmost caution. The recipient of the information was Alma, a young but experienced ranger. Alma was not just a protector, but also a dedicated veterinarian. She had spent her life mending the rifts between the human world and the savannah. Hearing David describe the tire, a cold anger rose in her. That tire was a symbol of the carelessness she worked day and night to prevent. Alma immediately prepared. She knew this required speed and absolute precision. She had to act before the heat of the sun or exhaustion caused Layla to give up, or worse, before the tire inflicted permanent damage on Keto. As Alma's pickup truck sped down the red, dusty road, she told herself, her mission was not just to save a lion cub, but to save the last belief of a wild mother in human compassion. Alma arrived at the scene after a long, dusty drive. She asked David and the tourist to move their vehicle further back, creating a safe space, minimizing the factor causing panic for Layla. She stepped out of the car, in her khaki ranger uniform and heavy tool bag, facing Layla. She knew this was more than a rescue mission. It was a test of courage and respect. The tension in the air was palpable. Layla stood guard, her body taut like a ready-to-spring coil, but her eyes expressed weariness and a plea. Alma did not see Layla as a threat. She saw Layla as a desperate mother. She did not immediately raise a tranquilizer gun, understanding that doing so would violate the last shred of trust Layla had placed in humans when she dragged Keto onto the road. Alma began to approach slowly, each step calculated. She spoke softly in a calm, reassuring tone. Though Layla didn't understand the words, she could feel the intent. "I don't want to hurt you, Layla. I just want to help your cub," she murmured, keeping her gaze at a respectful level, neither direct nor evasive. It was a negotiation between two mothers. Layla let out a low growl, the sound like a weak warning. But strangely, she did not charge. She stood still, seemingly torn between her fierce protective instinct and the exhaustion of reason. Alma knew her window of opportunity was only a few short seconds. She saw Keto beginning to twitch slightly, a sign that he couldn't endure much longer. The decision was made. She had to act immediately. In a decisive move, Alma positioned herself, crouching slightly to avoid making Layla feel threatened. She cleverly used a small distraction object, causing Layla to glance away for a fraction of a second. That moment was enough. Alma lunged towards Keto, pulling out a sharp, specialized cutting shear. She pinned herself down, keeping away from the reach of the lion's jaws, and aimed at the tire's weak spot. The shear sliced through the thick rubber layer. Snip! Crunch! The cutting sound echoed in the quiet space of the savannah, marking the end of the wrongful trap. The tire broke open. Keto was freed. Alma retreated immediately, quickly jumping back into her vehicle, ensuring she did not occupy Layla's space. She had done what was necessary. She had saved Keto, Now it was time for Layla to do the next thing. The tension did not decrease, but transformed into extreme anticipation as all eyes focused on Layla, waiting for her reaction. Amma reversed the car towards the tourists, all watching with bated breath. Layla stood still for a moment, perhaps trying to process what had just happened. The release came too quickly, too suddenly, in contrast to the prolonged agony. After a few seconds of hesitation, she tentatively stepped forward. She touched Keto lightly with her nose, sniffing his entire body. The tire was gone, and there was no smell of tranquilizer or attack. Only her son's weak breath remained. Layla began to lick Keto with gentle, loving licks. It was not a cleaning action, but a confirmation. He was safe. And then, the small miracle happened. Keto moved, slowly but clearly. He opened his eyes, felt the constriction gone, and felt the familiar warmth of his mother. He stirred, trying to nuzzle into Layla's body. Layla, the mother who was ready to sacrifice her life on that road, let out a soft moan, a sound no longer of anger, but of absolute relief. Layla gently used her nose and teeth to lift Keto, not with brutal dragging, but with tenderness. She carried her cub, slowly but steadily, taking Keto away from the cold asphalt road, back to the safe, green grass. Amma and the tourists watched until the two golden figures faded into the dense vegetation. Silence returned, but now it was the silence of gratitude, not despair. On the black asphalt, the only thing remaining was the cut tire, a silent testament to the battle between motherly love and indifference. The story of Layla and Keto is not just about a wildlife rescue. It is about the fragile line we are crossing. That tire is a stark reminder. Every action, every piece of waste we leave behind has life or death consequences. Layla gambled on our compassion, and thankfully, that compassion was answered through Amma's brave action. Our lives and their lives are connected. When we inflict wounds, we must bring healing. Amma proved that the human role is not just to observe. We must be the protector, the healer. We have witnessed the extraordinary strength of motherly love and human courage. The story of Layla, Keto, and Amma is proof that even though we belong to different worlds, we can connect through compassion. Keto's survival that day was due to a wild mother's moment of bravery, answered by a human's timely intervention. Don't let this touching story end here. Its power lies in spreading the message of connection and the responsibility we share. If you're moved by this sacrifice and miracle, please help us share this video with your friends and family. Let Layla's story remind everyone of the importance of conservation and conscious action, and to not miss out on the humanitarian stories, the inspiring moments about life and nature that we bring. Please subscribe to the channel today. Click the subscribe button and the notification bell to join us in spreading gentle beliefs and solutions that connect us with the wonderful world around us. Thank you for watching. See you in the next stories.